You are listening to the Curtis King Podcast. Music producers, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Curtis King Podcast. If you are listening via the Apple Podcast, or you're listening maybe on the YouTube, do what you need to do on those respective platforms. Subscribe. I see a lot of you out there have been sharing these podcast episodes, and this one is going to be a special one because I'm joined by my brother, oh gosh, Leotis, who looks like he all bungled up. He got the hoodie on. He like, man, just get to it, man. What am I here for? No, I'm playing. My brother, oh gosh, Leotis is here, joining me as a special guest. What is going on, Ray? We got we got guests back-to-back weeks. What's going? We got a real podcast going on here. Anyways, oh gosh, man, thank you for joining us here.
Oh, of course, man, of course. Thank you for having me.
It's so weird, like talking to you in this space like this because we've made so much music in this room, but obviously things are a bit different circumstances. But yeah, first and foremost, how have you been? What has been occupying most of your time these days as a producer? Because I guess I got to give a quick little introduction. He's one of the most amazing producers that I've ever come across.
I'd be chilling.
He be chilling. He's not going to accept all that praise, but he's one of the most amazing producers. And I do mean that in every sense of the word, from the actual creation of the music to the actual arrangement and composition of song crafting. And then also, you know, it's no surprise that as he starts to dabble in as an artist, he finds his success in that as well because he's been around it for so long. But yeah, oh gosh, Leotis, man, you guys have probably heard of him from the packs that we've done for Slap X. Yes, by now, if you've been on my channel, you've seen him cook up live a few times. There shouldn't be any question. It's even ridiculous for me to say this, but I got to make sure I give his just due. You want to talk about some of the credits that you have as well, just for the folks who were like, who he worked with, and why should I be listening to what's going on?
Yeah, sure. First placement was this group called Jack and Jack. I got a placement with LaToya Luckett. Worked on Best Shot, directed by LeBron James.
Okay.
Free Meek, which is a documentary on Meek Mill. What else? Did OT Genesis, I Look Like Bay. One of my biggest hits.
That's huge. So those who I Look Like Bay. When you just listening to OT Genesis today, yeah, this guy produced Look Like Bay. So amazing work all the way around, man. I feel like I've known you for so long, but it's like so many different introductions that we've had where I didn't know. Like we shook hands, we said hello, but I feel like we've met many occasions. You talk about a beat battle in which I beat you. Indeed. That I have no memory or recollection of, because every memory that I have of any beat battle, since we're going back to the very beginning, is you smacking me left and right in the most disrespectful manner. And I kind of had it coming for the years that I did that to other up and coming producers.
I won that battle. I didn't do you in that battle.
Bro, yes. You came in with this Michael Jackson Thriller sample that when I heard it, I was like, okay, so we doing that right now? Okay. Are you gonna do that in front of people? Okay, that's what's up. But so walk us back to that, because that was an interesting time. There's a lot of things about that part of your story that I didn't know until we actually fast forward to actually working with each other on Aticophobia, and then from there just becoming the best of friends, and also just working on so much music in general, to Jubilee Year, to Somersault, and all these different projects. What was that time period like for you? Like, what was your major focus at that time?
At that time, my focus was just trying to, be a little bit more social, because I was still in like the cooking stages, the stage where, I'm still trying to find myself as a producer, figuring out what I want to do musically and creatively. And, I found out about that music scene as far as like doing beat battles and beat showcases. I didn't know that was a thing. And so, my cousin Captain, brought that to my attention. Shout out to Captain. But yeah, he told me about the beat battle, and then the shows that was going on at the Vibe and stuff like that. And I just started pulling up, and I was like, oh, this is tight. You know what I'm saying? So joined that first beat battle, and because I was like, you know what, this is
it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
This. You know what I'm saying?
Your beats prepared. Really, you already. What kind of preparation did you do that first one?
I just brought what I thought was tight. Yeah. I didn't really like prepare. It was just more so like I was just really confident in myself at the time, you know. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be able to get to at least, you know, a first round, second round, however it works, because I didn't know.
Sure.
And I get there and I'm up against you.
First round, out the gate.
First round, I was up against you, and I didn't know you. I didn't know anybody really. Yeah. And you played that Spice Girls jam flip that you did.
Yeah.
And tore me a new one.
but Ray, would you mind turning the microphones down just a little bit on both of ours? Because I think as we start to talk, it's getting a little bit loud.
Oh, okay.
I'm seeing that red pop. Thank you so much, Ray. Shout out to Ray. For
my guy. Thank you.
In the clutch. But so you came in there and I played the Spice Girls joint, and I mean, I just don't remember a time, and I'm not saying that you weren't at that time dope, but I just don't remember a time. It's hard for me to like recall a time where you didn't have absolute slappers or absolute blappers. Mm-hmm. And so what happened after that battle? Because I feel like you came back with such a vengeance, and it's not like you just disappeared from the scene, because you were a drummer in a band at that time. Mm-hmm. And I know we were kind of crossing paths there as well, but you know, you have a history in music as a drummer. What happened during that period of time when you came back and it was like, I got to come back and cut heads off? Because that's exactly what you did. You ran off like a crazy streak of beat battles that was just nuts.
Man, like, so after that day, like I said, I didn't know how beat battles worked, right? And what you were supposed to play, right? And I was familiar with my cousin's work. And I remember having a conversation with him, like, you need to just come with heat, like listen to my stuff and you know, watch my videos and study it and understand what goes on, because you only have like a minute to play beats, 2 minutes sometimes. Right. So after I lost, I was like, okay, now I know what I'm getting myself into. So
what were you doing before that you had to change? Like, what was it like, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's probably going to go in the same way you did the first time into a beat battle, and they're trying to unlock it? Because I feel like it's not like you had to unlock another beast in you. Excuse me, coronavirus. I know, like you had to unlock another beast within you. It's almost just like you already had that, but it just somebody had to. Maybe it was Captain that had to like let you know this is the way things go. So, what do you think was like the major shift in the music from there on? Just
really understanding what you're supposed to do in a beat battle. Like, it's kind of like getting into a fight. Like you can't go fight somebody. I mean, I don't be out here fighting. So
you got a UFC career I don't know about? Yeah,
no, not at all. But like, I mean, if you don't know how to fight, you're gonna get beat up. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And that's kind of how I looked at it. It was, and I'm very competitive too. So like when I got out of there after I lost and came back home and really studied, beat battles, and was like, okay, so you got to do as much as you can within.
What does that mean specifically, though, when you say as much as you can? Like musically, what are we speaking about?
What I mean by that, as far as me correlating to the whole fighting thing, like you can't just go into a fight just throwing haymakers.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying, the whole time and expect to win. Like, it doesn't work that way. Right. You gotta jab, you gotta, hook, duck, all that stuff. So when it comes to beats, you gotta make sure like you're doing drops, you're doing like transitions. Make sure your mixes are clean. Like, I had to really go into depth with like, figuring out how to make my music sound theatrical and interesting for 1 minute. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just like playing a loop that was tight, but okay, we understand. Okay, you can do that, but what's next? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't play loops. That's pretty much what I got from that. Like, just don't play loops.
And it seems like, when you did make your presence known the second time around, you took that to heart, and it was like,
no, I did.
If I come back, when I come back, all of y'all are finna get hell, including me, because he came back, for those out there that don't know the history of the story, and the man abused me in front of a live studio audience with the beats, and I was like, who is this guy? Who is this? Captain, this is your cousin?
Man.
And shout out to Villain as well, like just a family full of just
too.
Man.
Yeah, him too. He kind of showed me the ropes too, like just watching his videos, just tearing people apart in beat battles, like,
because there's something about the drums, man, like that certain people don't understand when it comes to drums. Certain people listen to like your beats or listen to my beats or listen to folks who focus on the drums, and they say they're just loud. So then they think they can match it by just being loud. but they don't understand all the elements from the swing to, you know, what sounds you put together to, like you said, how you mix them. And so, or just really, I guess this is what you call the sauce of your particular sound. Was that something that you feel like you always had that even starting off in production, or was this something that you felt like elements of it you had to be taught, or you just had to do a lot of trial and error? Like, how did you I guess basically make the Oh Gosh sound?
It was more so trial and error, only because like I kind of knew like that I had to bring that. Yeah. Well, actually, no, after the fact, I knew like, okay, I need to make sure I bring it because I know what crowd I gotta, please. You know what I'm saying?
We're talking about Riverside, California, where these battles were at, and these are like
Riverside
diehard hip hop heads. Like, these were like the most of hip hop. Like, they want to hear stuff that slaps, but it doesn't have to be necessarily boom bap. They have an appreciation for trap, but they know, and it's crazy because it's not just the guys that know. It'll be even like ladies in attendance who have never made music that just know a slapper when they hear one. And so it's a very tough crowd to satisfy. And if you go in there, I mean, there's been times where even I got somebody in the audience, I was like, yo, that shit was whack.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you got to take it to the chin and just, it's kind of like our version of Apollo in a lot of ways, but even more harsh. But so, I'm sorry, continue. You were saying that it's a lot of trial and error to kind of help you get to that point.
Yeah, that's all it was, just like really understanding and dissecting like that type of music or beat. You know, as far as like the term slap, like I didn't really understand that till after I lost that beat battle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So how would you describe your sound for somebody who's never heard it before? And I know it's like the hardest question sometimes for producers because they're like, man, I do a little bit of everything. But if you were in a elevator, 30 seconds, who is one of your favorite producers of all time? Give us just one.
Goodness gracious.
Just the first one that come to mind.
Battle Cat.
Because we know that you already have a relationship with Battle Cat, and but if you had never met him before, and it's the first time you're meeting him, and he sees you have a keyboard in your arm, and you're on the elevator, and he's like, "Oh, you work on music?" And he says, "What's your sound? Like, what do you call it, or what do you do?" How would you describe that before that elevator gets to the next few levels?
You know, one thing I really hate about that question is that it's also a first impression.
Yeah.
So like, when you say you like, oh, I do a little bit of everything, it's just like, okay. So it's either I guess it's not either you're mediocre or you really do, but it's just like, I legit do everything.
You do.
You know what I'm saying? So I guess in that case, you know.
So, okay, how about I'll rephrase it then. I'll make it a better question. You do a little bit of everything, but there's a difference when you choose to approach pop as opposed to another producer who chooses to do pop. But I always hear your sound no matter what you choose. Right. So I always hear it in pop. I always hear it if you decide to do EDM, if you decided to do, straight boom bap, the drums are hitting a certain way. The, the spacing is a certain way. The arrangement is a certain way. How would you describe that aspect of it? Because, I mean, that's obviously just your sound at that point.
Man, I guess at this point, I'm going to just have to call it the Oh Gosh sound.
The Oh Gosh sound.
I mean.
Okay. What is that, I guess was the question then.
I mean, it's... I pull from so many inspirations as far as like SoundCloud, Battle Cat obviously being one of them, and like just
who's SoundCloud? Never heard of that producer before. I'm just playing.
No, just like the SoundCloud.
Who are some SoundCloud producers that you listen to?
Let me see, Decap. Well, he's not even a SoundCloud producer, but that's where I discovered him.
Right.
Shout out to Decap, by the way.
Yeah.
Freaking Caption. What's his name? ADFX, I think his name is, something like that. It's a lot of them, man. It's a lot of them. Monte Booker, he's obviously not, a SoundCloud producer, but that's also where I discovered him. Just like a lot of these crazy, this left field, thinking outside of the box producers.
How important has SoundCloud been to kind of striking inspiration in your music? Because I feel like there's a lot of times that whenever we've had a long drive, when I used to live in the IE and we drive from IE to LA, you'll pull up a playlist of music that you pulled up, and I'm just like, I don't hear their music in yours, but I can tell when you'll look in certain things and you'll be like, I like the way that they did a reverse reverb into a snare, and I kind of want to just I kind of want to see what that's like. How important has kind of discovering folks on SoundCloud been to you as you look for inspiration? Because I think it's a lot of things a lot of people out there want to know, like, where do you find your inspiration from?
Well, going back to the whole beat battle thing, like, I'm super competitive. You know what I'm saying? So when I was listening to that, well, I still do, but when I listen to that kind of music, I'm like, dang, like, I got to step it up, because everything that, you know, a lot of those producers do is so intricate and, like, so detailed, opposed to, like, you know, a song that you would hear on the radio, which is also dope most of the time. You know what I'm saying? It's not all music on the radio is fire.
Right.
But, you know, it's just like...
we know that conversation for sure. But
yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I just love the intricacies of those type of beat songs that I hear on SoundCloud. Like, it's appealing. It's crazy.
What did you start making beats on?
FL.
FL was what you first started with?
Yeah, that's what I first started with. Yeah.
And when you first opened up FL, did it look as chaotic as a lot of folks? Me and Ray was talking about this. They first get to FL and it's like, yeah, okay, where do I start?
Yeah. I mean, what's crazy is FL, like, I saw my cousins using it, like, a long time ago. Like, when I would visit, like, you know, Captain and Villain, or Big Mason is what he goes by now. But I never really knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't really interested in music or making music like that until, you know, I got into high school drumline. And then that's when my family got a computer, like, for the house. And the
family got a computer, but they didn't know that you got a computer.
Pretty much. And then I finally discovered what that because I always wanted to know what it was, but I had no way of contacting my cousins and asking them, like, yo, what was that thing you was using on your computer to make music? Because they would just sit there and just click stuff in. I'm like, that's tight, and it makes noises as the thing passes by. Like, I thought that was so fire. So, like, I didn't know what it was. There was no way for me to ask, and I came across. I went to one of my friend's house, and they had it on their computer, like, they were using it. Yeah. And I was like, "What is this program called?" Bro, I kid you not. Like, I went home that same, like, I think, like, within an hour. Like, I went home and I downloaded it right away.
Right.
The demo. I got the demo version.
I need that.
Just so I wouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have a cell phone at the time to, like, take a picture or write it down.
Oh, man, those days.
But yeah, I got it, and I was like, dang, I don't know where to start. Like, I don't know how this works. I don't know what the heck a BPM is. Like,
man, but what's so crazy to hear about that is that you manipulate the program in so many ways. And I feel like that's something else too, is that no matter how many producers you collaborate that use FL, every single one of them use it differently.
Oh, yeah.
I've never found a producer that uses it the same exact way that I'm using it. They always do something different. Like, even when it comes to sampling, like, you know, when I used to work with the homie Jinx, he chops up samples in such a manual way. And I'm like, bro, this FL slicer. And he's like, no, I don't want slicer. I take these and I put them in the channel rack and I change the pitch. And I'm like, you know, you never want to mess up somebody's recipe as they go along with it. But how important have recipes? Like, do you have recipes as you cook up, or do you try to make it a fresh experience every time you sit down?
It's a mood. It depends on my mood. Because, like, now that I'm like kind of fiddling around with all other kind of, like, or all these other DAWs, I'm just like, I feel like using Logic today, which is rare. I probably use it like maybe twice by myself, but like, or like Ableton, which is what I'm, you know, familiar with as well. Like, it just really depends. Like the sequence I want to work in, or like the flow that I want to work in. And there's like one way that I work in FL. Like, I put literally everything in its own pattern. Like, because I know, like, a lot of people will do everything in the same pattern.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't be looking at me like that. Don't be throwing shots at me. He throwing legacy block shots at me right now. That's what that was. That's how you know somebody for a long time. The way he said that, I was like, for real?
Man, I remember did not want to let go of that once they upgraded FL. This dude did not want to let go of FL Studio 9, I think it was. Or
FL Studio 10 came out, and FL Studio was like, we're leaving legacy blocks behind. And I was like, I guess that means I can't go with you on this ride. And so I stayed at 9, and I was like,
but then once you did finally hop on that train, you was like, you did not turn back.
See, and that's why I asked the question about recipes, because now I look at it and I'm like, I can't imagine making beats in any other way now. I know why that made sense for the time, but I look and I'm like, I think you're the one that inspired me to do that. You and Nabi are the ones that inspired me to jump out of that, because that really was a security blanket for me to have all my sounds. For those that don't know, who never use FL Studio, in their arrangement composer mode or playlist mode, you basically can put all of your sounds into this thing called a legacy block, and you can stack those blocks all across a beat. I would put all my sounds in a block, clone them, and make changes like this is going to be where the drop is going to be. So this is verse 1. This is verse 1, version 1. Verse 1, version 2. And I would do that for a whole beat, and my beats would look like a game of Centipede. It was just like textures on my, and he was looking at this like, yo, where's everything at, bro? Like, I'm like, oh, it's all in there. And he's like, but you can't see it. And so I got to give props to you and Nabi, and specifically because you guys are the reason why I lay all of my sounds out. It used to look like the way that you guys feel when you first open up FL and you never use it. That's how I felt about seeing every single sound laid out on the channel. I was just like, yo, where's the kick? And am I gonna break something? Yeah. That was my biggest thing. But that was a.
It was hard for me to get out of that too. I will say, like the whole.
Was that something that you were with the legacy blocks at one time?
Like, so when I because I'm the type of person that when relax. No, I'm just kidding. But what's it called? I know when I first upgraded to FL, I want to say it was 9 when they introduced the playlist. I don't remember. Maybe it was 8. I forgot. And I was like, let me just try this new playlisting thing. Let me just try it. And I fell in love with it within like 20 minutes. Because you were able to cut like the actual patterns, like, you know, really structure a beat. Because like you really had to, like if you were doing everything in a pattern and on legacy blocks, you had to really like copy a bunch of make a bunch of copies of that legacy block just to like take out the kick. Oh yeah, I know you know.
He said just to take out one singular kick, like you have to now clone this entire pattern just to change and alterate. And
it was like 3 steps to do one thing. You know what I'm saying? Now I could just hold shift and hit C and cut the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and I think as you grow, and this is just kind of a personal tidbit for me, as you grow and you want to do new things, like for me, what I always loved about your beats was the drops that you didn't expect in places that you don't typically hear the drops. It's the same feelings that I get like from when I listen to Dilla beats, and then like you're listening to a loop that kind of like is continuous. It's a hypnotic loop, and then all of a sudden, before that second snare comes in, he'll drop out the sound and then bring it right back on that snare.
Heck yeah.
And it'll be like a mute, but you can hear like the vinyl still in the background, and you would hear like a or some kind of like vox. Those kind of moments for me, they may sound like obsessive for somebody who doesn't do that kind of stuff, but for me, like that adds so much character to your beats.
For sure.
How do you view that? Like what is it kind of your mindset on messing with the arrangement in that way?
I think so in cases of like doing showcases and battles, like I think that's important. Like that's where what I also pulled from when it came to like I pulled from like those type of beats just to make the beat interesting. Because you know if you have a beat that just loops and you don't know what to do, just doing simple things like that, just like chopping it or just dropping it, and then the snare comes back in, or like putting like how you said like a O in a certain place where you did drop, like stuff like that will make it'll really just like enhance the beat by a lot. Just by doing that
for
one
sure.
Thing.
You're the reason why I like the second part of my loops. Anytime I do, imagine a beat is boom, or boom, 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 boom. The 3 kicks, I had never heard that until I heard one of your beats, and I was like, why does that sound so dope? Like, and I was like, I want to try it.
Yeah, like
but
that.
I can't do that in my legacy blocks. Like, I might have to learn something different then.
Like stuff like that was like super unpredictable. Just like having, you know how the kick always lands on the 2 and the 4, and you have a section where the kick will replace a snare on the 2, like for 1 bar. And it's like I was expecting the snare to hit there. You know what I'm saying? So
this is an even crazier question. So you coming from a musical background, you said you were in you played the drums in high school, and you still play the drums, obviously. How does that clash with what you're doing, which is kind of like breaking some of the rules of what you expect from music theory, and you're doing certain things where like even like I've seen like drum breaks that seem like they don't make sense when the drop comes in. It'll be like some like 7/12 timing or something crazy swing on the I'm like, what kind of drum roll is that? And then it still comes back in, and the beat feels like it's still cohesive. Like how do you kind of bridge the gap and know when to not bridge the gap and break the rules and that kind of stuff?
well, it's funny. We just had this conversation. Well, I didn't have this conversation yesterday, but I had a situation yesterday when I was in a session where, actually, before I get into that, so as far as like breaking the rules, like the beauty of digital producing or just making music in general is that you can do whatever you want. So like, obviously, if you're playing drums, you got four limbs.
Right.
So kick, hi-hat, snare. But like in digital, it's funny. So in digital production, you could be making that same pattern, and then have a ride going on at the same time. But it's like physically impossible to do that. But it sounds tight though.
It sounds
what
dope.
I'm saying? It sounds fire. Yeah. But that's one thing I do love about making beats is that you can fill in certain like all these pockets that you couldn't do in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and like
I've seen you do some stuff on there, and I'm like, but that don't make sense.
Right.
But why does it still make sense? Like it feels like it couldn't be any other way. After you hear the drop, it'll be like some. It's hard to describe if you haven't heard it. But she'll put a drop, and it'll just be like 17 snares that came up out of nowhere, and it's like, how did you fit 17 snares? And it'll be like, I'm gonna say, hey, imagine 17 snares played in like a second, and then you bring a reverse cymbal that is going into a reverb automation that cuts off and then comes back into it. What?
Yeah, you got 6 people playing one drum set at that point. That's what it sounds like.
It reminds me of when I was in world music class, and they used to talk about the Beatles, and they said the Beatles had to stop touring, I think, after the Sgt. Pepper album, because they were like some of the first bands to utilize multi-tracks and go past like the traditional 4-track, I believe it was. But they had like so many channels. And of course they was all out there. They was out their mind on psychedelics, but they had so many channels that they were like, we can't possibly perform this live.
Yeah.
We have literally too many channels.
There's 4 people in the band.
Unless we hire 72 other people for these channels, we're not playing this. But you're right. That is the beauty of digital production. And I think there's a lot of people out there who get what you're saying in theory, but they still feel like, because it's a computer program, they feel like constrained and tight. What advice would you give them other than unclench their butt cheeks? What advice would you give them for those who are listening who are like, yeah, I see the freedom you have with digital production. How do I achieve that same freedom with what I'm doing? What's the best advice you have?
Learn the rules and then break them after. Like once you get comfortable with like following a structure as far as making music and making, whether it's drum patterns or chord progressions or anything that has to do with a certain structure, learn it and then go outside of the box. You know what I'm saying? I think it's definitely it's needed. Like you need to know the fundamentals, like for sure. You know what I'm saying? Before you actually start going out and doing all this crazy production. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely,
that's the move.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah, and I think that brings up a great point too. Because your talent is not just restricted to just arrangement. It's not restricted just to drums. Like you're crazy on the keys, and it makes no sense. Because I asked you, I said, so just assuming you've always played keys, and like assuming that you went to a teacher, how did you learn how to play the keys again?
Man, YouTube and prayer.
What kind of prayers was you doing? Because YouTube, what do you mean YouTube?
I mean,
how?
So, well, okay.
I got the same YouTube. Maybe mine's broken. How?
I'm gonna break it down for you.
Okay.
So, when I first got into playing keys, well, what brought it to my attention was making beats.
Okay.
So I didn't know that was the thing neither. I'm thinking like I could just click all this stuff in, which you could. But
hella middies.
You know what I'm saying? Like hella middies. But I was like, I need to know what I'm doing. Like I don't understand what the heck is going on. Like I was doing stuff by ear and it made sense. What's it called? I joined I had the band Thursday Night Out, and I played keys for that band for I want to say like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And
so did you have any kind of teaching before then? You just literally had to like. Did you play the keys for
No. So I was like, I want to be a part of the band because my best friend Jamil, he played bass for the band.
Right.
Because at first it was just Dwayne, shout out Dwayne, Adam, shout out Adam, and then Jamil, shout out Jamil. And I just happened to pull up one day with Jamil because they were like practicing, and I was like, oh, I want to join. Like, can I play something? And then they was like, sure.
What do you play? What do you do?
and all of us were kind of like beginners at everything. You know what I'm saying?
That
so
helps
like
out a lot, I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah, so like actually Jamil was playing keys originally, but then he went to bass when I came to keys, and so he picked up bass pretty quickly. And
he's super dope on bass.
Yeah, he's tight. Adam, he was already a drummer, and then Dwayne was already rapping stuff. But you know, I got into the band, and I was like, okay, I was playing with 5 fingers. These right here, my left hand, what is this? Your ring finger, middle finger, and index, and then on my right hand, my index and my middle finger.
My man's was.
I literally was playing like this, like playing 3 chords.
I'm not gonna laugh.
Chords and stuff like that.
I still got stickers on my keys. Go ahead.
Sheesh. But you know, I was doing that, but then I was only able to do so much, and then that's when I started getting into YouTube. And then when I got out of high school, I went to college, and I took a music theory class.
So what? No, go back, rewind to YouTube. What do you type in? Teach me piano,
man. Okay, so to this day. So when I was playing in the band, I was playing mostly everything in C minor. Like that's my key. I still play everything.
You recognize that, or somebody else told you that's what you were playing?
I recognize.
You recognize
it.
Okay, so you at least had that level of understanding.
Yeah, I knew that much because like FL, it'll tell you like the keys. You know what I'm saying? So I remembered that, and then I played everything in C minor, and then once I took that theory class, or no, sorry, before I get to the class, I would go on YouTube and like learn chords in C minor. You know what I'm saying? Like I was learning. And I tried going out of C minor, but it was just difficult for me because my muscles were like, I can only play in C minor. Like it was hard to like play.
Your fingers had muscle memory of no other.
Pretty much.
No other chord progressions.
Like,
Thank you.
Stay here.
This is a nice idea, but no.
But yeah, that was pretty much that. And
so what did you type? You said you typed in, so you knew the chords. So then what were you typing in from there to kind of advance what you already knew on YouTube?
I would type in like how to play jazz chords in C minor, how to play like.
So you learn one chord. Please, producers that are out there that are struggling with this, recognize what he just said. He found the chord that he always went to, and said, "You know what? Let's start with one thing."
I found the scale.
You found the scale.
That's what I meant to say.
Scale. So you found the scale, and then from there you found ways to kind of jazz it up, for lack of a better term, and figure out different styles of play, I guess, with it.
Yeah.
And, so then, you looked that up, and then just kind of like, you pausing the video and
just
playing
like,
and going back?
He has a pinky on this note. And, like I was really like just stopping, like you said, stopping the video and doing that and just piecing stuff together. But
how often are we talking about you're watching these videos?
I don't watch them much
I'm saying
anymore.
When you did in the beginning.
I always watch them like every day.
Every day? Like how many hours would you think? Just
maybe like 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Because like I'd learn something and like, okay, now I need to make a beat out of this.
About to go
you know
off.
what I'm saying? Like I'm about to go crazy.
Y'all don't even know these C minor jazz chords. I'm finna, man.
It's kind of hard to like to say like, I'm not gonna say I recommend learning. I recommend learning one key and getting comfortable with it, but try not to get stuck there. Because
is that something that you've noticed? A lot of folks kind of get stuck in that.
Like by myself, I mean, I can play in any key now, but I'm just more comfortable in C. And like if somebody is like, say if I'm in a session with somebody and they're playing in like B flat, I'll still play in C and transpose to B flat. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't be doing that, but whatever. You know, who cares?
Right.
But
it sound good at the end of the day.
Yeah, but one thing my teacher always taught, or my music teacher always taught, is like practice makes permanent. It's like he never preached the term perfect. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
It's practice makes, because however you practice something, you're going to always do it that way.
So true.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Especially when you're under pressure, because I can't imagine you going into a situation where you're relatively a beginner in a band, and the first time that you guys had a show, and then the general nerves of just being in front of an audience is one thing. Now compound that with, we're in front of an audience, I don't fully know what I'm doing, but all I have to do is go off of practice at that point in time. So no, that's a bar. Practice makes permanent. Yeah. That's a bar. So talk to us a little bit about. Okay, so obviously you found your success locally. You found your success in the beat battles, and then comes the opportunity for you to now get placements. And it seems like since you've opened that door, it's just been like the floodgates have just opened for you in terms of opportunities. Why placements, and sort of how you've been able to kind of get your feet wet in that?
Well, Well, first off, being in the local scene is definitely what helped that out, because that's how I got recognized.
Right.
Because you never know when someone's gonna be somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like I ran into Illa J yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
What?
Just being in the right place at a pizza joint. Like I was going to a session, and I go to this pizza joint.
Yeah.
And the studio's right next door, so I recognize him. I say what's up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo, this is a studio right here. He didn't come, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? But like, stuff like that is kind of how like things worked out for me. Like I'd be at the Vibe, and freaking David was there, my my manager.
Your manager, and
he just knows so many people, and he brought me into that realm of like placements. Like the next day, he hooked me up with the homie Firstborn. Shout out Firstborn, which is the person that got me my first placement. So it's really like right place, right time type of thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and was that challenging for you to put yourself out there? Because I think a lot of producers struggle with that.
Absolutely. Because like when it comes to not really. It depends. Like in my case, when I was working, with Firstborn, I had to like. He's a record producer. Like he makes records. You know what I'm saying? I was still like in my beat battle phase and being crazy with production and stuff. So like, so with that being said, I had to learn how to scale back and like tell myself like this beat is finished. I don't have to put 10 more drums, in this beat and 10 more like melodies. Like, and then as far as like, getting myself like mentally like, or just like getting myself like ready to like know like I can really like make this out of something was hard too, because we have our days where it's like just unmotivated and stuff like that.
Right. Where's this really going? What's happening with this? And I think that you've had a very different path, just in us having conversations off camera about how you approach placements. That's why I was always so grateful when you asked me questions about it, because I was able to tell you things that, a lot of folks weren't in a position to tell me when approaching it, because you can it's easy to get into that game, especially when you're as talented as you are, and folks just kind of use you up, and then when they're done, it's kind of like,
that's the next best thing. I mean, but that's why you got to capitalize. When you get to a certain point and you're able to just make those layups and make your bread and make it happen, just go ahead and make your bread and get out of there. You know what I'm saying? Or until they, use you up.
So you have these opportunities that pop up for the producers that are out there kind of from the outside looking in, and, they're not afraid to put themselves out there. What have you noticed about producers? I mean, there's two different questions, but what have you noticed about producers that kind of shoots them in the foot from getting these opportunities and keeping these opportunities going? Like, what kind of things do you see them doing that if you had an opportunity to kind of like be big homie, you would pull them off to the side and be like, don't do this because this is killing your opportunities?
Honestly, it's really hard to say, because it just really depends on who you're working with. But I guess in my case, in my experiences, just really,
like, have you seen have you seen a situation in which a producer is just dropping the ball? Like, I'll give you an example. I was in sessions with TDE where they pull a producer in there and he's going through beat number 25 and they haven't said yes to anything. And they're not getting the hint that stop playing trap beats because they're not in the mood for trap beats, or stop playing music that was off of their last album because they're already done with that. Like, especially sending beats through the email, which I'm sure that you've done too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, maybe let's start there then. For producers who don't even have any relationships and are sending beats through the email, they don't know what to send, so they end up sending like a tight beat from that artist's last project, not realizing like he's already done with that sound.
Yeah.
And they're moving on.
Well, one thing I will say is that, these labels and artists don't look at music as just music. It's more like when artists make a song, and the same thing with producers, or when they make something, it's a product. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally something that's gonna have an ID number in the long run, and like make the money, later on and stuff. So like how you said, like they made blue last year. Today or this year we're making red.
Right.
They're not on the trap beats, before.
That was
I mean,
a moment
like they
in
were
time.
before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that, nowadays just send whatever you feel like is your best work. I feel like people kind of, screw themselves over by like, dang, this artist has been doing this sound for so long. Like, I need to send him this stuff.
Right. Not realizing also they got producers who already are making that there.
Yeah,
and that's how they establish themselves as working with their day ones who have that sound.
And so they're working with their day ones. They're getting like, I remember I heard like Rihanna is getting like 65,000 submissions of beats, like stuff like so she's getting
everything that she could possibly need.
Yeah, like the typical of what you think Rihanna would get. Like, like same thing with Drake. They're getting like thousands of submissions. So like you just can't think too much on it. Like Drake.
What are you sending to Drake or Rihanna? Like what do you in your mind, like as you're sitting there to cook, what's kind of your process when you're customizing your production for an artist? What are you thinking of? Because I feel like that's a skill that with me, you got me down packed. Like when we sit there and cook, there's never a time I'm sitting there. Maybe just Steve Jobs where I couldn't catch the drums that you were initially doing, and we sat here for like 45 minutes trying to figure out like where are you rapping at, Curtis? And I'm like, where are the drums starting at? But aside from that, I feel like you've always got that. Like you know how to customize, and you work with so many different types of artists, which is just crazy to me. But like, how do you customize an experience? As you're cooking up, you're sitting down, you're about to make a beat. Like you have obviously the Justin Timberlake placement for the commercial in Levi's. And how are you customizing your experience to be tailor-made for that artist, but still be, I guess, something they would want to use in the present tense?
For me, I put myself in, I would just be like, okay, if I was Drake, like I said, you can't think about it too much. Like you just got to just make music that because if you're just forcing it, it's just not gonna come out tight. In my opinion. Yeah. But like if
you end up making another best I ever had.
Right, there you have it.
It's like I have no desire for
you know what I'm saying? But like I'll just make beats and then I'm just like, okay, well, would Drake be able to get on this? And I kind of like, in my head rap like Drake or whatever, or sing like Drake. I'm like, okay, this could go for Drake. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. Like that's how I kind of how what's it called? What song was that? This is a rapper named Kimby X. You know what I'm saying? And like I was in a room with him, and like I was playing beats for him, and I wasn't just playing random stuff. I was just playing stuff like what would I? Because I'm familiar with his music. I'm just like playing things like what would he rap on? And so I was putting beats, like pulling beats from a folder to another one for him, and everything I was playing, he liked. And he was like writing to, or like freestyling to. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
When you already got a winner out the first 2 or 3 beats, you're like, oh, this is about to be a breeze.
Same thing with Murs. Like you would never think he would have jumped on what's the song called? Shot the Sheriff. I forgot what the actual title is.
I remember the song you're talking about though.
The EDM sounding one.
I never would have guessed he would have picked that one either. When he was like, yeah, this is the one I'm getting from Oh Gosh, I was like, this is EDM trap.
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you would never hear that from Murs for those of you that know what, Murs does when it comes to music. But like he chose that and I was like, it's tight.
You like, never would have sent that either, you know what I'm saying? It's good that you sent everything.
Yeah, but that's another thing too. Like being in the room with an artist is obviously it's not that easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But when you do have the opportunity to send, don't think about it too much. Like just send dope stuff. People are looking for different stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're always hearing the same stuff all the time. Like you just can't think about it too much.
So I don't know how much I can disclose of this and if I'm supposed to even say anything about it. So I'm gonna just like let you take the lead on this. You as an artist, okay?
Like a rapper?
As a rapper.
Oh man.
I don't want to like let no aliases out the door or anything like that. I don't know anything. I don't know nothing about nothing. All I know is like I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. But is that something that is like a real deal for you, or is that something that he pulled the hoodie down? Is that something that's like a real like you really want to approach this? Because I mean, it's not like you don't know what you're doing. The music that I've heard that you've sent to me all sounds super dope. You know how to produce yourself outside of the music, like even from the sound designing and the mixing, and we haven't even talked about that at all. But you know how to put the pieces where they need to be to where somebody who's just starting to rap, which I know you're not. I know you've been doing for some years, like on the low, would not be able, like on a low, but they would not have the same it wouldn't sound the same, I should say. You know, where's your mind at with that? Like, is that something that you really want to pursue?
I'm on the fence. I like it. It's fun. Like, I have so many dope, like you know, Kit, Cam, like everybody is just so dope and quick, and like they just know how to do that crap. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, and when I try it, it's just mad fun. Like, like the song that we dropped, was it in December? Bad. Like, the song didn't make any sense. Like, on my verse didn't make any sense. But it was fun to write it. You know what I'm saying?
Dope song, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the production's cool. You know what I'm saying? But that's like one thing that I'm like learning is like, okay, I can't just write whatever in it, even though it fits to the beat. Like, I gotta make sure that like it's conceptual and it makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
I guess you're the only one that cares about that these days. I don't.
Maybe
have you heard music as of this guy wants to actually make sense and put things. What is he doing?
It's funny. Like, I posted on Twitter. I want to say like a couple weeks ago. I was like, I need to learn how to rap, and I forgot. I think it was Satire. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Satire.
Yeah, Satire. Yeah. And he commented like, what did he say? He said, it's like, okay, so I said I need to learn how to rap. He's like, nobody else knows how to rap. You need to learn it. Just do it, or something like that.
It's
I was
true
like,
though, because like, even like, okay, this is like me kind of being transparent with you. There's been times where we're working on a song and the random thought will come to mind like, this is a different era of rap now. What are you going to rap like? What are you going to rap about? What are you going to... And I'm like, at the same token, as much as I care about that shows how much I love it, it also shows how much I take it too seriously because nowadays, like, and maybe that's how it was naturally supposed to be. People who are like purists get so angry about rappers who are not rapping with perfect diction or perfect, you know, content or perfect storytelling. And it's like at the end of the day, we're rhyming words together.
Yeah.
Which if you ask anybody who has no attachment to the culture, they'll look at that and say, oh, that's really playful. That's something kids do. You're rhyming together. But it's like, no, my rhyming's a different kind of rhyming. I'm rhyming about my life. And it's like, yeah, but you got to still be able to take some of that pressure off and look at it from the perspective of, we're just putting words together.
Yeah, that's all it is. Like,
our story is important. What we're talking about is supremely important. But at the end of the day, we're putting words together. And no matter how serious you are, I know you've heard so many rappers in which they got a really serious story, but their delivery kills it.
Yeah,
it's like, I know you might like really shoot somebody out here, but the way you're delivering this verse, like I'm
you
like
got a water gun, my dude.
like pew, pew, pew. Like I don't believe nothing that's coming out of your mouth right now, and you might very well do that, but you just sound like way too overbearing and too serious, and I think that that's something that you're not gonna have an issue with as an artist. But I just wanted to ask you about that. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
I mean, I definitely will be dropping more music.
Okay,
as like a rapper or a singer, whatever you want to call it. It's fun, and I think that's what's important. Is as long as you're having fun and it sounds tight, put it out. You know what I'm saying? And I do plan on doing that. I do plan on sticking with that mindset.
Okay, so we're gonna end here on two different things. I want to say thank you for definitely being a guest today here. This is
of course,
long overdue. We getting ready to actually cook. Homie KIT out there in the corner over there getting ready to cook. I know he's going to be at we want to cook today. So y'all going to enjoy that video later on this week. But two things I want to end off with. One, I want to talk a little bit about Slap Experts with you because you are, of course, the co-founder of Slap Experts. Right. And it was an idea that came together really via more so text messaging, if anything. And then I want to talk about where people can find you, find your music, and connect with you. But let's start with Slap X first, man. It's definitely an honor to be putting this together with you, and I'm glad. We've always said like we're gonna collaborate in some way, even if it's through music, as an artist, whatever the case. Like he's responsible for why I got back on the stage to rap. He's playing the drums, and every song we did was music that he produced. So this is my brother, no matter what. So it's just dope to get these sounds together. But sound design, man, he taught me. Really what I know right now about sound design and set me off into the different avenues that I'm going with it, man. But Slap X, or not Slap X, that's the next pack. But in terms of Slap Experts, man, what do you want the people out there to know?
Oh, they need. They're about to get some stuff. That's for sure. Okay. Like, we all put in a lot of. Oh my God, it's about to be. It's so hard to explain. Like, because I know what I contributed, and I know what you contributed. It's about to be wild.
What's like why sound design for you? Like, why does that make sense for you?
I mean, it's fun, man. Because I'm going back to the whole like SoundCloud thing. Like, I kind of got, that skill from making those crazy beats and stuff like that. Because you got to like sit there and manipulate and filter and manipulate, EQ, like do all this crazy stuff to make different sounds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I started just putting sounds in a folder and it just became fun. And I wouldn't say I necessarily taught you. I feel like maybe I might have introduced you.
You taught when I saw you turn a clap into a hi-hat by manipulation of sound. And then I saw you flip around and I some of the stuff that you showed me, I was like, you know how you hear a term over and over again your whole life? I've heard sound designer pretty much my whole career. Didn't know what it meant. I thought it meant like, oh, you must know like the ins and outs of Pro Tools and synthesis. And you know, like you're a technical person, but it's literally designing of a sound that can start as a sine wave and end as a hi-hat or end as a kick drum or end as a snare. And when you showed that to me, it was like another part of my brain opening up like, that's what they mean by so it's just literally like you're literally Kanye West in the sounds that you're designing. But no, you taught me, bro, and you got to take them props because now I'm sitting here and what my neighbors used to hear was, a bunch of beats being thrown together. Now they're hearing a bunch of like 808s being tweaked in 14, 15 different ways. So I know I'm driving them crazy, but it's the most fun that I've had, and I appreciate you for it, man. So let the people know where they can find you. Let them know about your socials. And actually, no, before that, I need you to give me one thing. Give me 3 plugins that are your go-tos right now.
Smack Attack #1 by Waves. RC20. No, I'm not even going to count RC20 because everybody has that.
Everybody uses
it. So Smack Attack, G-Clip, and Ovox. Are my go-to plugins right now.
I got to get on that. You've been telling me about that for the longest. But thank you, man. And where can people find you at?
At Oh Gosh Leotis everywhere. And YouTube.com/Oh Gosh Leotis.
Man, there it is. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you out there for listening and watching. A lot of gems got dropped today. My man's had a great quote that he said he learned from one of his teachers, and that practice makes permanent. So y'all got to get out there and practice. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you are listening on the Apple Podcast or Spotify, whatever distributor, make sure you subscribe and stay in tune because we got even more guests coming very, very soon. I got more episodes I'll be doing on the solo. But thank y'all for being here. Thank you for watching the YouTube. Please do me a favor. Go down to the comments below and tell me what did you resonate the most with in today's podcast. What is something that really stuck with you? In this life, you would not be full of life until you decide to live life to its fullest. Once again, it's Curtis King. And oh gosh, Leotis is slapexperts.com.
Indeed.
Have a good one.
Yeah, have a nice one.